Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of By the Numbers, the quintessential Counter-Strike podcast. I'm your host, Richard Lewis. My co-host is Duncan Thorin-Shields. Sam Bainlaw-Davis is the producer. And we're going to be talking about nothing, because the good news is you're getting 2 episodes in a very short space of time, you know, Thursday to Monday. Pretty good. But nothing's happened in Counter-Strike, Dunk. So we're just going to have to fucking make some shit up.
I'm sure something's probably happened, but it's probably nothing big.
Yeah, nothing big. It's all right, it's all right. What I've decided to do is, right, I'm going to tick off the boxes of basically what makes by the numbers, right? Okay. So first thing is we'll start the show with just airing out some petty beefs, some feuds, using this as our platform to basically establish some facts about some people in the esports space that are duplicitous, deceptive, and rely on the good feeling of fans to basically cruise through esports.
Do you know something funny, actually? Yeah. Is that when people complain about that, like, first of all, 99% of the people complaining are watching a VOD. So already I have no sympathy for them. You know, you can just keep skipping forwards. Like, if I'm watching like a video where, like, you know, I don't want to see the first 20 minutes or so, I skip around, I wait till it sounds like they're talking about what I want to hear, and I just listen to that. Like, I've never had a problem with that. Never understood why that's an issue. It's not like a television broadcast, you know, where I have to sit through it. Secondly, when people complain about that and they're like, I don't want to hear about your life or your problems in the industry. First of all, as you said there, it's actually a platform. We have a rare opportunity to address such things. But also, I actually listened to one of my favorite podcasts to listen to is the Sam Harris podcast, right? And this is actually a segment he does on his show. It's called House Cleaning. And at the beginning of the episode, what he does is, usually for about 10 minutes, he addresses whatever's recently happened to him, you know, if he's been in some sort of a dispute with someone, maybe references the fact that, you know, like I might have them on the podcast in the future, whatever it might be. Now, unsurprisingly, fans of his don't just go, why don't you just shut the fuck up about you, everything about you, and yet give me all your opinions entirely from you, but only about this game? No, because he has an intellectual fan base, whereas unfortunately, we do have people who retweet skin giveaways. Have you ever won a skin? Has anyone ever won a fucking skin?
No, of course not, because there are no skins.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure there aren't. I feel like I'm in the Matrix right now.
No, it's true, dude. Listen, I've said this before, right? A lot of this is counterproductive to who we are and what we do. I know this. But if there was a way I could handpick who could watch this show.
This is the most ridiculous conceit.
I don't give a fuck. Listen, I honestly fucking loathe some parts of my own audience so much. If I could just hand remove them from my audience, they're too stupid, Duncan. They don't understand it anyway. They don't understand what I'm saying anyway.
Let's be real, Rich. The worst part is, it's like people who still think at the end Game of Thrones is really good, like in the last season. It's like I don't think you were enjoying it for the same reasons I was in the first few. So I can't even bother with you over that.
They pulled the dragon out the lake. Right, fuck off,
look,
mate.
They're having fights in that.
Yeah. Look, there's a zombie bear. Like, mate,
so I am with you
away
on that
from
one.
me.
Like, even if they like our content, the fact that they do definitely just like it for some shit reason, like, yeah, fuck off.
Yeah, exactly.
Just get out the door.
So if I could do it, like, people tweeting me all the time, like, going like, I've been a long-term fan, but I've lost all respect. You know, okay, let's talk about this status long-term fan. What do you actually do? Occasionally click on your content? Or do you use ad block? Yeah, of course. Yep. You ever paid anything on Patreon? No, not at all. So, right. Basically, you think consuming my content completely free of charge, in fact, actively using a plugin to fuck me out of money and enjoying my content for utterly free, gives you some sort of... It's like Bane. And you think this gives you control over me? It's outrageous. It's outrageous. They're tweeting that shit at me. Who the fuck are you, fan? Fuck off. Jog on. So, yeah, I'll tell you, mate. Like, I've just had enough, haven't I?
I'm that naked.
Yeah. Anyway, that isn't what I was going to talk about. But now that we've isolated, like, I don't even feel bad. Like, I'm saying it, thinking it's a bit risky. All of this, isn't it? What if the fans all leave? Like, if those fans leave, brilliant. Actually, I'd rather,
yeah, for sure.
I'd rather have half the audience and half the reach, knowing that half was the good half. I look at like how Stuart Lee approaches comedy. No, it wouldn't. No, it'd be 75%.
You know, this is the worst realization ever. And sadly, the exact shit fans we're talking about will be the ones who will put forward the disingenuous, like, sophistry to claim otherwise. Because if you ever attack any of your fans, they will claim, we made you, we are your fans. It's like, no, you are the one person out of 1,000 who will go out of your way to annoy me when the 999 will just either say nothing or just sort of be like, thanks for the video, and then just keep it to themselves, you know. Like, you wouldn't even lose that many. Like, I've always said this. I would gladly, if I could, similar logic, if I could handpick a specific amount of Reddit users or Twitter users or whatever to get rid of, I would just do it in a day. Because you could literally, it would only have to be like 1,000, and the amount of dog shit comments would go down by like 10,000% or something.
I know. It's like, oh yeah, I'm a big fan of your work. I really respect everything you do. So how can I tweet bullshit at you endlessly? No, you can't, mate. You're giving me a fucking brain tumor. It's not worth it. Fuck off, please. Like, but I didn't even want to talk about. Like I say, you know, yeah, fuck them. But what I wanted to start the show with was a bit of story time, because I noticed that I got this is slightly to do with Overwatch, but again. Our show, our rules, our platform. Fuck y'all if you don't like it. Basically, a lot of people have been asking questions like about this little Twitter spat that I had with Hastro, right? So I'm going to just completely give the history. The statute of limitations is completely gone now. It's dropped off. We can talk about the past. You'll be able to verify some of it because you were there for some of it. But yeah, basically, like, we had this thing where, like, he was talking about how Dallas Fuel, one of the worst run organizations I've seen in any esport, by the way. Like, players in and out, suspended, can't control themselves, no management, coaches being deceived, told they've got control, then they don't. Then they get fucked over. And meanwhile, the owner, who has like run this absolute dumpster fire, players on streams blaming each other, and then high five, let's all go win a game. Like, just no management whatsoever that you would associate with a top tier esports organization. And meanwhile, the owner's going, yeah, we've just got that winning mentality, and what we care about is champ. Get your fucking house in order, you absolute clown. I wouldn't like literally trust Hastro to run a bath at this point. I think he's just been so fucking, you know, like bewildered and bamboozled by money and sort of people licking his arse and status that he's really lost the grounding that he had when I first met him many years ago. But anyway, so he put a tweet out like saying, like, we're going to get it right, stand by me. And then immediately followed it up with, I don't know if this is enough drama to make it for Reddit. In other words, trying to manipulate someone to upload his comment onto Reddit. So I just replied with, the fucking Jeb Bush, please clap, because that's what it was. It was like a pathetic, oh, love me, validate me, get my words out there to a bigger audience, please, kind of moment. And then he fucking replied back, because obviously he'd heard that I'd left the E-League, and tried to intimate I'd been fired, saying like, oh, you're the king of Reddit. So first he mocked me for having a Reddit ban. And then he replied, and I said, don't worry, you'll be on Reddit soon enough because you mismanaged your team. And then he replied to that by saying, well, at least I still have my job, trying to publicly intimate I was fired, which
don't worry,
that isn't true.
100% of people from Overwatch who commented on this thread do not understand even the basic context that you aren't with E-League anymore, and that he was basically jabbing at you with that comment.
Yeah, exactly.
They read it as a literal comment, like he was just like, yeah, good work. Or well, like,
yeah, I know.
It's so clueless.
Like, a lot of people who follow Overwatch obviously have social disorders. That's why they're pulling their little piggly wiggly dicks to fucking diva porn or whatever the fuck they do. Like, straight up fuck them. Like,
I just love the people who are like, what? One of the characters in Overwatch is a lesbian, right? I'm in now. So when would that ever even come up in your rationale? What? One of them is fat. Good. I can now enjoy this game.
It's like, all you need to know about...
I enjoyed the movies of John Candy in the 1980s. I never had to eat 3 extra cheeseburgers, did I, you daft cunt? What would the logic be?
It's mad, isn't it? Like, and it's like, all you need to know about, like, just again, like, 2017 Pornhub are like, yeah, what's the number one search on fucking Pornhub? It's Overwatch porn, of course, isn't it? Oh, Widow, like, come on, man. What the fuck is wrong with y'all? And then obviously in 2018, it's Fortnite porn. And you can go on YouTube, by the way, and see these fucking videos where it's like strip Fortnite and stuff. Like, everyone's got problems. This
every day we stray further from the light.
Yeah, I know. Just please, like, fucking, I'm ready for Armageddon.
I never thought the apocalypse was a real thing, Rich, but this feels like the murmuring before the earth just fucking rips open and the deep ones or whatever come out and just take over our whole culture.
No, I'm ready for Cthulhu. Please go take us all. We don't deserve to live. We fucked up. Yeah. It's over. We were an aberration, a mistake. It's time to correct that mistake. The human experiment has failed. All right.
You know, the saddest thing is
Overwatch. It's like, over.
This is such a ridiculous admission, but I don't give a fuck, as you know. Like, it's days like this where I don't think to myself, you're in a bad mood, you know, everything will be fine tomorrow, you'll think differently. No, I think the opposite. I think, you know what, I've made a lot of mistakes in my career. Why did I give people second chances? Why did I give them a pass? Why did I try and be the bigger man? Why did I should have just destroyed everyone at every possible opportunity. Fuck always. Everyone, yeah.
Hey, never apologize, never explain, take no fucking prisoners. It's the only way to fucking roll. Do not compromise, even in the face of Armageddon. And I'm sick of people telling me Rorschach's actually a bad guy.
He's a straight fire character, isn't he?
Don't give a fuck.
He's one of the only characters in that fucking book who you can actually fully get on board with. Him and the comedian are fucking pimps. Love both those characters.
Anyway, back to Hastro.
Two most nihilistic characters in the whole book, of course.
Right, but back to Hastro while we're talking about comedians, right? So anyway, people are like, oh, but
quality segue.
Yeah, pretty good, right? Why are you beefing with Hastro? Hastro's such a quality and classy guy, right? Let's talk about what went down between me and Hastro. Let's talk about the history there. So when Hastro first came over to the scene, he told us that he was looking for a CS team, a Counter-Strike team. And because he didn't know the space, he reached out to a few luminaries to sort of help him get the lay of the land. And he had his own own ideas, but he wanted to check that they were good ideas. Now, I knew Hastro because he'd actually done interviews with Cadred, the website I used to run, and he was always very gracious. He basically let one of my rookie reporters go out and do an interview with him when he'd just come off the back of a world championship. I don't know when that was, maybe 2011. 2012 maybe.
This is when he was a pro player, yeah?
Yeah, when he was a pro player. And we'd never interviewed any big console people before. And Hastro said, look, even though I know it's mainly a PC publication with a focus on Counter-Strike, I'll certainly do an interview with you. And a guy called Jeff Kim did an interview with him. And he always sort of kept in touch after that, you know, always wished the best for the site. So I was like, okay. So when he decided to get into the space, I was like, yeah, this is a good guy. Now, he initially reached out to Scoots. And then we had a Gfinity, I think the one at the Copper Box Arena. And if you remember, Hastro came along and sat down. I think he talked to you, and he certainly talked to me a lot, and basically said, I've got my idea about the two teams, and I would like to get the Polish guys. He wanted, what were they then? Were the ESC? Was this prior to
they were Virtus Pro?
No, they were. He wanted to get the Polish guys into Envious. He felt they were the best ones. And I was like, well, listen, I've known these guys many years. I'm pretty tight with Taz and Philip. I'll set you up with a meeting. And we all had a few drinks. We sat them down, and he was talking to them, basically telling them, this is what we can do. For you at this organization. Look at our huge following. We're bigger than Virtus Pro. We can give you this, give you that, turn you into superstars. Now, the guys in Virtus Pro at the time seemed to be pretty receptive to the idea. What I'll always respect Taz for, Taz was going, like, all through the meeting, you don't want to pick us up, mate. you just don't want to do it. It's a nightmare. You don't want to pick us up. Now, we're fine. Like, seriously, do not. No, we're all stupid. Don't bother. Like, it's fine. Like, he was literally trying to talk himself out of this like big contract and big pay bump. It was just a wild thing to see. Second choice for Hastro was the French guys. Now, I sort of said, because if you remember, this is prior to them becoming Envious, and we all knew how good they were. I was already tipping them to win the major, and I was like a big proponent of these guys and saying, look, listen, I think you should go for the French guys over the Polish guys. The Polish guys have longevity, sure, they've got tenure, they're big stars, but the French guys are going to win trophies, and Hastro's always told me that's what he cares about most, winning things. So I was like, I think that's a better bet. So when the talks with Virtus Pro fell through, he basically moved over to the French guys, and we all know what happened. They went to Envious, and they went on eventually to go and win Cluj-Napoca. Now, I played a very small part in connecting them, but everybody knows, and you know this, from the moment Hastro came into the scene and Envious came into the scene, everybody in Counter-Strike was incredibly gracious, didn't get involved in all that Call of Duty versus CS bullshit. We talked them up on every broadcast as it being one of the first big organizations peripheral to Counter-Strike to come in and pick up a team and use their huge Call of Duty brands to give a platform to our players. Now, what did we get in return for that? Well, let me tell you. All of these Call of Duty fucks basically started paying attention to Counter-Strike. And then they decided, hey, what are these skins things? Kids love skins. How can we make a quick buck? And lo and behold, casinos started popping up, being advertised by Call of Duty people who'd never even played a game of Counter-Strike were promoting these skins casinos. And, of course, most notably, CSGO Lotto, T. Martin, and Syndicate, and Josh OG. Now, we all know what happened there. And that was basically that they pretended that they didn't own the site and that they said, hey, I found this cool site. You should totally go and gamble it. They were found guilty of FTC violations and have had several sanctions put on them, including where they've got to explicitly say, we now, these are the businesses we're involved in, and it'll be that way for a few years. And they were very lucky to dodge heavy fines. So it's not even up for debate. What T. Martin did was wrong, was highly unethical, and sure, it wasn't the worst thing. There were people out there just literally rigging the outcomes, and that's still going on today, by the way. But here's the issue. T. Martin was, by Envious's own admission, was a co-owner of Envious. So at the time this story came out, and I was covering it, I said, hang on a minute, T. Martin is on your board, and you have used players who I respect a lot, like NBK, to promote CSGO Lotto in now deleted tweets that I have copies of. So I messaged Hastro and said, what are you going to do about this? Because this isn't cool. It's not cool that you were welcomed with open arms into Counter-Strike, and now you are standing by somebody who has actively deceived and defrauded Counter-Strike users and people from that community. That is really unethical, and you should come out and condemn that behavior in the strongest terms. Now, what Hastro did was tell me to go fuck myself for even suggesting that, and said that I know you have to do this to get those clicks. It is as if it couldn't just be an ethical concern that I had. So, and he actively said it was all drama anyway, then released a statement that completely contradicted a 2013 tweet. What I'll do now is I'll get you those tweets so Sam can show them so you can see that a lot seemed to have changed in a very short period of time. So there was this from 2013. Hang on, I'll just get this for you. Let me just find it. This is it. So here you go, Sam. You can bring this up. This is 2013, where they say, quote, we'd like to officially welcome Trevor T. Martin to Envy. He will be operating in a part ownership / management role within our team. Okay? It's there. It's black and white. They didn't delete that tweet. Then when the drama happened, they made a statement saying T. Martin had absolutely nothing to do with running our team and had a very small stake and ownership in the team and has never influenced our business deal, even though your players promoted CSGO Lotto. How did that happen if he played no part operationally? Coincidence, I guess. Now, what's interesting is you will notice, Sam, I've had to give you an archive for that. Why have I had to give you an archive for that? Because it's just disappeared. It's 404. It's literally been, as soon as the CSGO Lotto story disappeared, to remove any potential links you could find on the internet, somebody at Envious, I wonder who that may have been, decided to delete the one statement they made that unequivocally linked T. Martin to Envious. And then people say to me, oh, Richard, why are you beefing with Hastro? He's such a classy guy. No, not a classy guy. Rather than condemn his lifelong friend, a man who scammed underage kids with a fucking fake casino he didn't disclose he owned and encouraged his young audience to go and bet skins while making a healthy profit all the while, right? That's before we get into them controlling bots and his terrible acting when, the jackpot's just come up.
Yeah, they also did that aspect, which is the other part. Like on that one, I can't remember the story. I don't know if they actually rigged the outcome, but I know he definitely uploaded videos, which again, he didn't say I own this site, but he was just showing him winning big on it. Like, look at it, fucking hell, I'm winning.
So people are like talking about Hastro as if he's never put a foot wrong. When he's
deleted all the ones he put wrong, hasn't he? So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, when in actual fact, he has proactively not just stood by T. Martin, and as far as I know, because it's never been stated otherwise, T. Martin still might have an interest in Envious, may still be on the board, may still have an ownership stake, and therefore every piece of profit Envious make, he could be entitled to a share of it, which I think's unethical. I don't like it. Right. But not only that, he actively attacked journalists that were trying to bring it to the broader public attention to protect them and inform consumers, saying we were drama mongering and going for clicks. And he did that to me after I helped him get a foothold in this space. That is not classy. That is the actions of what I call a cunt. So people can go and do with that what they want. But as I said, I think it's hilarious that a guy who talks about ethics and the right foot and championships and all this stuff is coming after me, trying to mock me for getting fired. Dude, no one can fire you. That's the only reason you do have a job, you fucking moron. Dallas Fuel is a joke. It's a fucking joke. And if you actually just stopped swanning around like your esports fucking royalty and attacking journalists like Slasher for just doing reports about potential roster moves and releasing statements to undermine their credibility, and you actually got your own fucking house in order, maybe your team wouldn't be a fucking laughingstock. Just a thought. But what do I know, right? I'm unemployed. What a fucking ass clown. Don't know if you have anything to add to that.
I mean, I definitely think that like, this is a classic example of there's a saying, right, in hockey and basketball that like the person who commits the first foul or like does some sort of shady thing never gets seen because obviously like, you know, the ref isn't looking at everyone. But unfortunately, if you respond, you always get seen because at that point, right, after people notice like, hey, something's going on between these two guys. If you're the guy who then hits the guy, unfortunately, then the ref always wrecks you and is like, right, you get a yellow card, whatever it might be, right, you know, depending on the sport. And this is a classic example where this always happens. So, for example, if someone fucks for me for years and does things behind the scenes or publicly, and then one day they respond to me and I say something like, fuck off, who the fuck are you? Or something, then to someone who doesn't know any of the context, yeah, it will seem like, wow, you're being a bit aggressive, aren't you? Now, they never stop to think, Richard, I wonder what the reason for that would be. Is there a reason why, for no reason whatsoever, he would just attack someone? Because, yeah, that would be outrageous, wouldn't it? Which is something, by the way, never done in my entire career. I never just get people I don't know and just attack them outright, etc. So rather than ever stop and think that, unfortunately, fans will always just go, he must just be a bad guy. Even though, as you see, if you know the context here, all of a sudden, I mean, fair play to Astro. He did a very good job on making his replies to you sound very, very soft, like, oh, I have a job, etc. But that's like a direct dig at the notion that you have been fired or let go in somewhere. He's basically implying that outright.
Yeah. And
referencing you being banned from Reddit again. I don't know what that would have to do with him on Reddit, you know?
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. But this is what I mean, you see? Like, what these
his
people
tweets literally may as well be, right? You saying to him, like, oh, you did a bad job managing your Overwatch team. And him being like, yeah, but your mum's dead. That's about the level of discourse that we're on. And then I
wish you took a better opportunity to break me the news, Duncan, than doing it on a podcast.
No, but here's the thing, though. If you then said to someone who said, I'm glad your mum's dead, you were just like, you know what, fuck you, mate. Then people would be like, come on, man, why have you got to say fuck you? All he did say your mum's dead. Like, that's basically the equivalent of what this guy's doing. But fair play to him. I guess he won this one, right? Because he got the idiots to believe him.
Yeah, but this is what I mean. This is what the Call of Duty guys have always done, right? They have these huge followings, right? All localized on Twitter, which, you know, because the scene's a joke. They even do contracts through Twitter. Like, I remember I covered one story where someone was going, "Can you have a look at this contract for me and tell me if it's binding?" It was like a Call of Duty player, and I went, "Yeah, I'll take a look at it." And they sent me screen caps of Twitter DMs, and I went, okay, well, that's the agreement, that's the outline of the contract. Where's the contract? And they went, no, look, I said underneath, yes, I agree. I'm like, right, get me the fuck out your fake esports scene, please.
No, here's the sad thing, right? By the way, I've never been against Call of Duty as like an esport. Like in general with esports, I don't really care what the game is. I care more about like the structure, what the model is, etc. Because with games like League of Legends, the ship sailed a long time ago on the idea I had to be on board with the game being good. I don't give a fuck about any like game where you control a little gadget and do fucking magic. Get the fuck out of my face, you anime weeb cunt.
Jesus Christ.
The point I was making was, it was all hyperbole. The point I was making was, in this kind of a scenario, I remember when I heard about Call of Duty and I actually looked into the scene around it, right? And as you're saying, they have this massive scene on Twitter. Like, there's people who have millions of followers who are Call of Duty players. And likewise, I remember going on their YouTube, and this is one of the reasons why I have always listened to people like Hex when they tell me anything about YouTube, because they know about 10 times more than anyone in esports about how to monetize it, how to fucking like leverage it, what to do with it, how to phrase the title of a thread or whatever, And I remember one of them I remember one time, it was only not that long ago, maybe like 3 years ago, there was a tweet and someone was like, wow, great numbers at the Call of Duty World Championship, 100,000. And I go, what do you mean though? And he goes, yeah, we just got to 100,000. And I go, but this player's got 1 million followers on Twitter and his last vlog had 300,000 views. How could this doesn't add up? Who's watching the game? Like, and basically, as far as I can tell, their scene is like loads of fans who don't watch the game, as far as I can tell. Like, it's got to be the weirdest esport I've ever heard of. How could you be a fan of FaZe, have FaZe gear, watch FaZe vlogs, say love FaZe, argue with people about how good FaZe are, and then go, what's on TV right now? Oh, FaZe is playing. I don't give a fuck about that. what is this? It's not a sport, is it?
It's like I say, what these people in the Call of Duty scene always fucking do, it's the same shit. Because they're used to these, like, very young, impressionable fans. They're always looking to weaponize their fan base against people. Hastro's done it. Just pick a fucking name out of that Call of Duty filth, and you'll find somebody that fucking basically likes to sort of weaponize their fans and use their fan base to like stir, which is something I'm accused of all the time, by the way. I'm sure you are as well with the fan logic tweets or whatever. But these people are explicitly they put out a bit of disinformation, knowing that it'll just stick, knowing that, like, Hastro intimating there that I got fired. He'd love that to take hold. And people say that to me. So, so somebody who's been in the game as long as he knows exactly what he's doing with those tweets. But I cannot respect somebody who made a choice. You had an option to basically stand with the people that were exposing wrongdoing in esports. Somebody who is on your board, in your organization, somebody that gives you an incredibly bad name, incredibly bad reputation, and is a toxic asset. Unless we forget, fresh off the fucking bullshit apology where he was dancing with the dog like a fucking loser at a family wedding, fucking trying to, pretend that it was just all a joke. It's fine, right? He then went into promoting an actual fucking pyramid scheme. That was literally a week later or something, a literal pyramid scheme. And he was deemed so toxic, T. Martin, the pyramid scheme came out and said, it's nothing to do with us. You're a fucking pyramid scheme. Do you know what I mean?
Like, yeah, but we've got standards and that.
Yeah, exactly. we only want to rip off people in an ethical fucking way. We only want to crush their spirits and give them no money if it means not working with the likes of T. Martin. And fucking Hastro's over there going, he's all right, that T. Martin.
Not that again, it's anything to do with me. It's not associated at all.
T. Martin's the type of motherfucker.
Who's off camera? Hello, T. Martin.
T. Martin's the type of motherfucker, like, he just straight don't give a fuck. As long as he gets his, as long as he's got his house, his car, he don't care where the money comes from. He'll market a pyramid scheme. He'll fucking lie to kids. He'll have fake ownership in multiple businesses that he doesn't disclose. This motherfucker probably falls asleep on a mattress made out of fucking blood diamonds, drinking a fucking glass filled of, like, children's tears at night.
He did. Here's the thing, though. He did manage to produce that one tear. Remember that? He did manage, and for that, by the way, he was just going like full Joy from Friends, ripping his pubes out, thinking about imagining a world in which, you know, like everyone was savvy and didn't gamble and skins were gone tomorrow. Fuck, oh God, imagine it. Oh, one take, squeezed it out like a fucking the last. Like, have you ever seen where you try to make orange juice out of fresh oranges? It takes about 10 of them to make one glass because you squeeze a whole fucking orange and like that much comes out, doesn't it, at the bottom?
I thought you were going to say
away all the worthless elements like the orange.
I thought you were going to say squeezed it out like the last jet of a fucking, the 20th wank of the day. Whatever. Point is, Bob in there, guys. Bob in there.
20th jet?
Yeah,
that's a shift and a half, mate.
Insomnia is a motherfucker. That's all I'm going to say.
Nice
but anyway,
round number.
Yeah,
I'm on 19.
Why leave it there?
Well, time to get the organ grinder going again.
Indeed, but you know, like I can't believe that. Like in his mind, it seemed a good choice to publicly stand by not we are going to investigate this and remove T. Martin from the organization. Not this is outrageous.
Richard, they would only remove someone from an organization like Envious if he put an emote in a chat.
Yeah, true.
Those would be the only grounds upon which, you know, when it gets to that sort of level. If T. Martin had done something like go in a chat and do PogChamp while an Asian person had been playing, he'd have been straight out the door. Good riddance.
So yeah,
it
to me it's just so strange that somebody that, you know, I once held in pretty high regard decided to go that route. And understand, I would still have no issue with him if he'd decided to just not attack what I was doing. Because there's a way to come out and say, I'm not going to renounce T. Martin. He's done a lot of good things for the organization. What he's engaged in here is unethical, but I need to wait and make up my own mind on this issue. Pretty much all you have to say if you want to deflect and hope it goes away. You don't need to actively say, hey, Richard, you're doing this for drama and clicks. Go fuck yourself. You don't need to do that. You know, and the implication that my... you know, years and years of trying to protect the scene from these greedy, predatory pieces of shit, which, of course, every time they come back, they're just welcomed with fucking open arms. You know, somehow it's all about the clicks.
I'm definitely with you. Like, I'm definitely with you on the... Like, here's the thing. Obviously, I don't personally have any sort of dispute with Hastr. I haven't had any particular things happen publicly. Then again, I don't do investigative journalism, so I wouldn't probably be in his crosshairs in that sense. But I will say, I totally am with you on the angle that if someone where... Okay, I understand fans don't know behind the scenes players we have helped, teams we have helped, times that we have done things. I mean, the saddest thing is, as a journalist, sometimes... not every story does go live. Sometimes you are able to resolve a story internally within an org if you have a relationship with an owner, and then you do it. And even worse, the owner tells you, thanks, I owe you one. I noticed they never fucking tend to turn up those favours that you're owed. You know, they tend to just disappear the next moment because the next time round, they have such a competitive mindset. They don't want to lose any one of these battles. So I have to say, any scenario like that, and 99% of the time, fans don't know the backstory, where they react like, oh, wow, you're being really rude. Yeah, that's why. If it was a normal person who I didn't know, I actually wouldn't respond this way. But this is someone who I have a personal relationship with who has now both violated that and is now slandering my name, basically.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It's just like, listen, what I quickly realize about a lot of people in esports is they're not beholden to an ethical code. They're not beholden to,
switch up whenever they need to.
Yeah, exactly, man. Like, what's that line in that Rage Against the Machine song? Your friendship is a fog that disappears when the wind redirects, right? That's pretty much that's a summary of everybody in esports who just wants to make bank. There is no ethical code when you want to make bank. You go where the money is, and you say whatever you have to do to keep the popularity high and the checks rolling in, and that's it. That is all you ever. That is the number one person they are fucking beholden to. And it's just sad because, like, I've always held myself to something a little bit higher than that, be it rightly or wrongly. And people, I'm certainly a flawed individual, but I do not understand why anybody would sort of derive an almost weird and perverse pleasure in attacking the people that literally try to protect the lifeblood of the industry from predatory elements in the industry that would happily exploit them for their own monetary gain. I do not understand it. I've never understood it. And by all means, if you want to go out there and fucking wave the little flag for Dallas Fuel, a completely made up fictitious organization with no history, no real ties to the region, just made up for morons to cheer like a fucking fireworks display. That's all well and good. If that's your jam. I saw it with StarCraft. I saw the same slack-jawed morons in the StarCraft crowds in 2010, 2011. Clearly didn't understand the game, but just like the zombies in Land of the Dead, they don't know what's happening. They have no concept of the game. That's fine. You go be that. Be that. That is fine. But if you're going to pretend that our organization is being well run, then the zombies are going to be looking at you saying, fucking hell.
Sadly, though, I have to say that this is one of the reasons why Overwatch as a game concerns me in esports, because I feel like if it has success on any level, it's just going to be the whole industry is going to pivot to exactly that. Because if you look at the people who are the fans of Overwatch, they're not esports people. And by the way, that is what is celebrated, and that is what people are going for with Overwatch. Clearly, it's to get other people from the mainstream involved. It's not about catering even to the esports people who liked fucking Overwatch. They did none of that, basically. So unfortunately, those are the people most apt to not know any of the backstory and to get it totally wrong and to not even realize they're cheering for the bad guy in some of these scenarios.
Of course they are. I mean, for me, I'm just waiting for the day when Blizzard are putting on, kids' parties for 12-year-olds and Overwatch events. But whatever the fuck. I mean, yeah, we're not going to talk about Overwatch on the CS podcast. Let's talk. We've done the thing. I'm sure Hastra will fucking address this in his fucking, I've got an AMA coming. Ooh, come and read my fucking empty platitudes about how I care about championships. By the way, when my CS team is utterly dog shit as well, by the way.
I'll go ahead and give you a massive spoiler for that. As someone who, I would consider myself a connoisseur of esports AMAs. I've read so many of them. It's oftentimes one of the things I read before I do interviews to see what people said, but didn't really expound upon much more than one sentence. First of all, there will be a lot of responses that are like 2 sentences long, so you're not going to get any depth. Anyone who thinks he's actually going to address like real problems he had with his coach or players and why they had to be kicked, it's all going to be like basically 100 small PR statements, which will involve statements like, I cannot go into further details due to it involving personal relationship. You will get none of the things you are opening the thread hoping to get. And that's generally, by the way, going to apply to almost anyone in a team in esports. It would be like thinking I'll give you the Counter-Strike example. Imagine Fallen did an AMA tomorrow and it says AMA, so you ask him anything. So someone says, Fallen, could you please tell us why FNX was kicked from the team? Now, remember, that move happened like a year and a half ago at this point in time. He's never going to play with FNX again, probably. And in theory, it's not even in the same org. There's not really any reason he couldn't give the actual explanation there. But odds are, if he was to do that, he would also give you a fucking completely like, we just didn't see eye to eye. And, the time had run its course and we felt as though we needed to move in a different direction. You wouldn't get any sort of interesting answers. So I know why people go to these threads because they sound like they're going to be interesting. You think naively, I'm getting like a direct chance to ask this guy a question. No media guy in my way. I mean, I've told people a million times, there's no AMA that's ever been done that even matches a single interview I think anyone competent as an interviewer ever did, because you actually can direct the questions there and someone can't just go, I will choose not to answer this question. But you won't get any of that. So that AMA will be absolute garbage. So everyone waiting for that, you are a fucking pleb.
Speaking of that, Ocelot hit me up the other day. And again, I remember Ocelot and Hastro having a little back and forth on Twitter about who has the most successful organization. G2, of course. Yeah. G2 easily. But I'm going to go on his podcast on the 25th. So Ocelot's the interviewer. I've interviewed Ocelot before. He's going to interview me. So that's going to be interesting, I think. Hopefully he's going to swing by and we're going to get into it.
Funny enough, I would actually give him he is the perfect counterpoint to someone. I wouldn't say Astro directly because I haven't had as many interactions, but to the sort of owner you're talking about. Because the thing about Ocelot is, because he was someone himself who has made mistakes and has done massive fuck-ups, he actually understands very well that it's all about relationships in this business. So if possible, try and salvage any you can, because there's been actually, no joke, I've had a bunch of times with Ocelot where even though I've always thought he was a cool guy, we came up in SK together, so I've always given him the benefit of the doubt. He's had a few times where he's not taken a full-on pop at me, but he's tried to fuck with me a bit. And I have to say, every time it's always gotten smoothed over mega easily, because he's a super easy guy to get along with.
Yeah, he definitely is. And I'll tell you this.
That is the way to do it in this business, because as we're pointing out here, there are so many times in esports where Remember, the era we're talking about in like 2015 with Envious, there's no such thing as an esports consultant. Nothing existed like that back then. So basically what we were doing with these guys was, in exchange for a pint that they bought us, we gave them free advice, which now would cost them fucking $1,000 an hour if they were to pay for it. Yeah. See, I would think that'd be worth sort of, bit of leeway, little bit of chance to vent occasionally, maybe throw me the occasional bone. This is how a working relationship would probably operate.
It doesn't matter. It's all take, and that's what I love about Ocelot, dude. I know that motherfucker a long time. Like, I met him at an IEM he played at where he did like some sick fucking Baron Steel. He was like back when he was hot shit, and like obviously no one knew who the fuck I was in League of Legends, as that was coming up, and
Right, I'm just going to say something, Richard. I'm real. You know how I am. Things are on the internet. If they're on the internet and it's published matter, then as far as I'm concerned, I can say it. All I'm going to tell you is this. If you know the background with Richard and Loader and how that happened, what was the first step in how Richard and Loader happened? Google Ocelot and the name of the person who was involved with getting the Loader thing happened, and you'll find out that actually Ocelot could have held up that sign.
Oh, really? Interesting. Okay.
I believe it should be out there on the internet somewhere. It'll be years and years back, so none of you cunts are going to find it. But put the little breadcrumbs I am doing together, then get in my fucking witch's oven and you're dead. I don't know why I made that. But whatever.
Ocelot's always been cool. Like I say, he did an interview with me way back when. And it's like, remember how he was vilified by the League of Legends scene? Like, he was the poster boy for toxicity. Yes. There was all the Riot back when they were like really zealots about this stuff. They put him out there. There was even that video they made, which he sort of had to make as part of his fucking rehab, Taming the Beast or whatever it was called. Where it was like, because he told someone to get cancer once in solo queue. He was the worst person ever, and it had all the moody music, like, and it cuts to like Ocelot going, and then that was when I realized when I said get cancer that cancer is bad, and like it's just like, it's just like really bad. But I fucking love that guy. Like, straight up, I always thought he was a baller. And if you look at his fucking transition from being like a popular player to being held up as being a toxic element in League of Legends, to course correct, change his behavior, become beloved again by a completely new audience, then transition into being an owner of a super successful organization, not many people have had that trajectory and been successful, and as you said, managed to maintain good working relationships across every step of the way. So I've always got mad respect and mad time for Ocelot. I'd even let him fucking dig me out a few times on Twitter. He gets a few. He can do that.
I'm glad you said on Twitter at the end. I've been hanging around Americans too much, mate. Fucking hell. Didn't know you had that sort of relationship. My life.
He's a very good-looking guy. I like his scarf. So let's talk about one of your favorite topics. Actually, this is pretty interesting because I found out, and this is like, I never call people out for blocking me on Twitter, because definitely do that if you want to block me. Like, T. Martin's got me blocked, for example. Don't blame him. I wouldn't want me being able to see all the little duplicitous shit he's tweeting either, you know. Yeah. Still check every day, though, T. Martin. Got that incognito mode coming for you. Don't forget, son.
Still watching.
I've got the FTC on my motherfucking phone. He's had it again. So anyway, I woke up and I was like, saw a story on Global Offensive subreddit that we're going to talk about now. Okay. And it involved KNG, right? And I was like, oh, you know, your boy. Or is that your boyfriend talking, Duncan? So I was like, what's he tweeted now? Fuck me. Will some people never learn? Why can't these players be a saint on Twitter like I am and just not tweet obnoxious stuff?
Here's the thing, Richie. You don't just tweet blatant lies, though, like this guy does.
Try not to. So I looked at this story and I was like, oh, you know, what's he done now? Clicked on it. Blocked. He's blocked. He's blocked me. What did I ever do? I never did nothing. I just said, like, when he had that fucking absolute meltdown that got him kicked out of 100 teams, I just said, look, mate, delete this. Like, please. Like,
I've been. I want to know something hilarious. You're going to love this because this will trigger you. This is the sort of thing, Richard, along the lines of that Hastrol thing, that if a player did this to you, you wouldn't fucking stand for it. So last time I made a joke about KNG, which I think was like a few weeks ago, I can't even remember what the context was.
Fresh material all the time.
It might have been when he joined the NTC team, right? When I made some comment on it, Phelps who, by the way, never had any dispute with in my entire life. The only times I've ever talked to or about Phelps have been in a positive manner because he's someone who's done nothing wrong as far as I'm aware. He's a good guy, seems a very good player. I actually think he's probably one of the best role models for the young Brazilians. He doesn't just fucking shoot his mouth off all the time, just lets his player do the talking. He tweeted at me, unnecessary tweet. Crazy idea here, Phelps. How about you do that to all your motherfucking countrymen, you idiot? Have they ever done any unnecessary tweets? I don't know if KNG himself would have done a few. I think if we maybe were to dig in the archives, we could find a few. Ever thought about that? But you know, the sad thing is, that actually reveals the state of the matter, Rich, is that Phelps is correct. He's got a better chance of convincing me, someone he vaguely knows, to not tweet than he has of tweeting these fucking maniacs who just are all over. Like, KNG at this point in time, I've never met him. This is the sad thing. So I don't know if he's actually like a normal guy. He seems on Twitter like fucking Weapon X or something. Like, what's made this guy so feral? Why is he just going ham on everyone in such an aggressive manner? There's no jokes. There's no like light-hearted back and forth, you know.
I respect it. I like, you know me, I like the savagery. Get in there. Let's fucking do it. Let's put all our fucking cards on the table and just tell everybody what we really think.
I hope he comes right at you.
Yeah, right, good. I'll be ready, mate. I've got material for days. You know me.
Well, sadly, he's not going to do it as he's blocked you. So,
right,
out of sight, out of mind.
Right. So the story was this. That obviously we know there's FPL, right? For those that don't know and don't follow this, because we do have a lot of people who just watch this podcast randomly. FPL is Face It Pro League. It's basically a series of pickup games for pro players or players who are deemed to be good enough to play alongside pros. There's even a little competition, so you can get promoted to the Face It Pro League. It's similar to ESEA's Rank S, except it's better because it's not ESEA.
Not run by cunts.
Yeah, right, and certainly never put fucking Bitcoin mining software on your PC when you weren't looking. But yeah, so there was a story about KNG and FNX being removed from the Face It Pro League, and obviously it looks like they're going to be in a team that's going to be based in Europe. They've been sighted in Germany. There's photos of them, in Germany outside of the big cathedral in Cologne, I believe it is. Right. And this story blew up because whenever a player gets removed from the Face It Pro League, they always assume that they belong there. And they like to go on Twitter and say, oh, woe is me.
Sure.
Why have I been removed? So I was looking at the tweet, and I had to go into incognito mode. And it said KNG was saying that they were kicked out and banned from FPL. And that they'd said they'd communicated with them, but they didn't. And this is obviously a bad translation, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt if anything's a little off here. But it says, for the simple fact, some players did not like, I think, noise or us or something.
I think it means us. It's like translated from Portuguese, which is vaguely like that,
yeah. and they were taking a lot of bullets and used a lying argument to get rid of us. I want them in non-FPL championships. So basically what KNG said here was that Face It Pro League had listened to some players that they were assholes or whatever, removed them, and then went on Twitter to say, yeah, this is fucked up. We're being persecuted again. Usual stuff. But then Face It came out and released a statement on Reddit that basically said, like, no, that isn't what happened at all. They were only guests in EU when we invited them. So when they came over to play LANs or boot camps, they would be able to do it on an evening if they wanted to. And in this statement, which I'll give you the link, Sam, if you just want to bring it up. I'm just going to do the cliff notes from it. Mikey, who has done a lot of great work in terms of community, people could learn a lot about what he's doing.
He is for community people on a website like this, the equivalent of what Adam Apicella is for tournament organizers. Yeah. This is how you communicate with the public, get your point across. By the way, still shut down a lot of things that people are saying that are nonsense, but without anyone hating you, because you do it in such a totally calm, rational manner, right? I think you did a banging job here.
Yeah, and you can see that he's like, we had constant communications with the captain, bit one. He's an amazing guy, one of the best foreigners that's ever visited FPL from a skill point of view, but also just leadership and feedback. And all we've done is temporarily revoke their access because, they were guests, and we're now going to we're now going to wait because this is FPL EU and they were only guests. FPL EU is for EU players. Once we know a bit more about their future, we'll probably bring them in and coordinate it. Now, what KNG was sort of intimating was that they were kicked by like some sort of big overarching conspiracy.
Imagine a Brazilian player thinking such a thing existed. Fucking hell.
It's hard, isn't it? But I just thought, like, listen, I've said this multiple times. Like, Face It, for me, does everything that ESEA fails on. And every pro I've ever talked to that's in Face It Pro League says they much prefer that service to the likes of Rank S, and they feel it's better. Certainly as well, they handle things in a much more professional manner. We've got that constant issue of when streamers are streaming FPL, are they concentrating? Are they looking at the chat? Are they detrimental to other players? Face It, monitor all of that. So there's none of this issue that comes up like what Steele was talking about, where people get in, they've been to a party, they're drunk, and they're like, hey, yeah, let's fucking log on and play some Rank S, which for some people is highly important because there is prize money. And the ESEA stance on Rank S is throwing is not, as in not trying hard enough to win a game isn't a kickable offense. Well, if that isn't, I don't know what is. That's their official standpoint on it. Face It Pro League seems to be much better managed, much better run. And as a result of that micromanagement and attention to detail, they have temporarily been removed from a region that they were only welcomed into as guests initially. So again, it's just like, I don't know. Whatever fucking team KNG is going to be on next when he eventually gets kicked from this one from being a fucking lunatic, can someone just tell him, like, again, don't tweet certain types of abuse and don't tweet out-and-out disprovable lies about businesses you will probably want to engage in an active partnership with. If you just learn these two lessons, you're going to have a very long and illustrious career. This motherfucker's been at the Last Chance Saloon more times than fucking Charles Bukowski. It's a fucking joke.
The stupidest part is it's the exact same script playing out again. Like, imagine this scenario. I'll give you an alternate timeline. So the same thing happens. KNG and FNX play in FPL when they're in Europe. They don't communicate enough or in English, and therefore they get removed, or their guest access gets removed. Now, by the way, the whole guest access already means, like, as we've mentioned, you didn't get yourself into FPL. You weren't voted in FPL or qualified for FPL. You were given access. It was then revoked when you basically didn't fit the criteria. Okay, I would personally just go, thanks for the week's access or whatever FPL. Shame it couldn't continue. I wish I could play still. Now, that's obviously being extremely reasonable. There's another option you could have. You could think all of this shite that he said, but just in your own head, not tweet it, and nothing would have changed, except now you wouldn't have pissed off Face It or anyone who believes in integrity and not lying, etc. Instead, every step of the way, it is never even this guy's actions that get him in the most trouble. It is always his response, in which he will double down, he will claim no responsibility, and he will put all blame and responsibility on a different third party that's not him or his teammates. I mean, it's unbelievable how many times. I mean, think about part of his reason. He didn't even just say, like, I could even have bought the angle of, like, some people just don't like me, and there's that like council of players or whatever. Some people don't like me and they've decided to get me kicked out. Okay, you know what? I could almost buy that. Now, I can't know if it's true. I don't know the players. I don't know you. I don't know how you've played. But you know what? That's not implausible. But the party has to add in. It's always the details that give away these fuckers as total idiots, Richard. The detail he has to add in that, like, it's because, they were taking too many bullets from me. Right, so what you're telling me is this, KNG. In a service on which Simple plays, Nico plays, if they come to Europe, Coldzera plays, Fur plays. What happened was, let's off the top of my head, I would guess people on the council would be like JW, NBK, Taz, these sorts of people.
These guys. Yeah, it is.
These guys, legends of the game, major winners, as I say, on a daily basis, can play against literally the best Counter-Strike players to ever play this game. They see you appear in a server, you kill them a few times, and they're like, fucking hell, I can't handle this. This guy's too much. Get him out the game. I can't fucking face these bullets, man. I don't think so somehow. That is the most implausible part of the whole statement. Why is that even popped in? I know why. To self-aggrandize and imagine some elaborate conspiracy theory, because it can't just be based on you. I mean, let's face it can't because you talk shit to him. You're not talking, or you're talking in a language they do not speak, because there's no one from Portugal in FPL. I'm guessing. I don't know if Fox has got enough fucking best mates he drops Glocks for that he gets in there or not. I don't know. I haven't kept the track on him. But anyway, you see the point I'm getting at. Is like, there's no way that's... And the fact that he has to add in those little details is like, there's something actually wrong with this guy, mate. Like, I'm actually genuinely at the point where he needs some sort of therapy or something, because there's some sort of like, not only anger issues, but some sort of mad insecurity complex that he has to like blame everyone else. He obviously, by the way, has some serious paranoia issues. Everything's always everyone else in a grand conspiracy against him, you know?
Yeah, but again, it's like I noticed a lot of players were sort of attacking FPL, right, recently. World Edit got removed. Which made a few of the CIS players tweet out, like saying, "Why did that happen?" Apparently, the explanation was
a similar one,
yeah. We just need more space for better players and teams. That's what Hooch said.
Totally legit reason.
Yeah, but then Pronax came out, right, and said, "I got removed from FPL. Someone said it was because of my lack of achievements to somebody else, and when I asked, it was because of inactivity." Well, these are, again, just totally valid reasons. First of all, I love Pronax as a person.
Love
cool
him.
Dude.
Yeah, great guy. Right? By the way, he's also absolutely shit at Counter-Strike at the moment.
Yeah,
so that in itself would be a valid reason, right?
If I was queuing up in FPL as a pro player, I'm like, fucking is Pronax queuing up? I'm swerving.
Depressing that would be, yeah.
Fuck that noise, right? Like, because first of all, the one thing he's going to bring to the table is going to be like, well, I'll call, shall I, lads? Great. So not only do I have to fucking carry it, I've got to listen to you fucking drone on as if this is a structured team environment when it's meant to be a pickup game.
It's a fucking joyless environment.
Right, yeah, it definitely is. So he's like saying, I'm inactive. Best reason to kick you. You're holding a space that somebody else could hold. And by the way, face it, they're committed to bringing up younger players through the ranks and helping them develop like they did with Rops. All the fucking space you're occupying for your vanity and your ego could be a young player playing regularly with top-level pros and being the next breakout talent. So take that fucking tweet and shove it up your ass. It's the most fucking small-minded, selfish, blinkered bullshit of all time. So what? You won some fucking majors. When was the last thing Pronax won? How far back do we have to fucking go in the annals of history? That does not give you a fucking pass to be playing at the highest level of pickup games now at the expense of young talent who are fucking hungry and will grind 20 fucking games a day just to get better. Like, sorry, if your ego thinks that's reasonable, you're losing your fucking marbles.
And probably the best detail that this is why this Mickey guy's fucking killing it. Mikey, I think it was actually, sorry, is because in his response, he understands, but you know what? There is going to be this ambience that people worry. Did we kick them because they're Brazilians? Is it because they don't speak very good English? No. He goes out of his way to point out, we love Bit and Phelps. They actually get praise from people for their communication and play. And by the way, KNG, I've watched both of you play a solid amount of games. Phelps is worlds better than you at Counter-Strike, mate. So the idea that like people can take his bullets and they're like, that's acceptable. But then when you kill him, they're like, get him out. I can't play. Get the Witch Hunter General. How is he doing this? Like, come on, mate.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. Talking about Brazilian stuff. There's a Brazil theme running through the podcast.
Okay. Let's see.
So we finally got the last member to join NTC. Last time around, we'd been speculating, would Steele be going to join there? You know, would he be sort of willing to play alongside FNX and Phelps and Bit? What would be happening for, with him? Would he play with KNG? And actually, they picked up a player called, Cello. Or at least that's what's been reported as being a done deal. And that's going to complete them as a 5. So the team would be Bit, FNX, Phelps, KNG, and this Cello player. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on this, because again, I never blag it. I never make shit up. He's not a player I've seen a lot of. Like I've seen the Luminosity team. They're always a team that kind of, I feel like, I know they they flattered to deceive a little bit, in my opinion. Like, they always have some pretty competitive score lines, but I wouldn't call them solid or.
Wait a minute, who are we talking about here again?
Cello from Luminosity.
Oh, right. Okay. I see.
Yeah. So he's meant to be the 5th player in NTC. That's what's been reported. It was on, I think DK put it out, and then HLTV have followed up on that report. So I just wanted to know what you thought about this and what it says about like the Brazilian scene as it is, because there's definitely better, more talented options that could have gone to NTC, or rather more established options. I won't say more talented, but they've decided to go with this sort of, the thing we thought would be the last thing they did, which was to go after a Luminosity player.
Well, unless I'm mistaken, when Immortals had the situation where KNG was removed and then the Twins stepped back and they were in a position where they had to try and sign players, I believe Cello actually was, I think it was Cello and a guy called Nel, not to be confused, obviously, with the French guy who does Counter-Strike. Again, why would you confuse them? They just happen to have the same name, but are totally different human beings. But you know what our audience is like. So those two people, I believe, were two of the people who they were trying to get to join Immortals. And at the time, that's when actually I learned just how utterly fucked the Counter-Strike contract scene is, where players in like Team One and Luminosity have mad buyouts. And it's like, but you haven't done anything yet, though. It's like, yeah, but 50K for me as well. It's like, so as far as I know, I think some of the Brazilian players already did want to play with this guy and considered him like, or maybe I'm thinking of Yell, actually. I've probably got it confused. I think it was Yell, actually, was the name of the other guy. But I think some of these names have basically would already have gotten a shot in an Immortals or an SK. It's just that, sadly, we now live in a world where orgs understand that if you can get these guys under contract, you can now basically lock them up by just putting the buyout way too high. And in these sorts of cases, I do feel as though we can't be too far away from there being some sort of legal obligations to this sort of thing. Like, I don't think it's, I might be wrong. I could obviously be talking up my ass. I don't know anything about the law, but something just seems a bit off about the idea. You could ask for a buyout for someone who isn't, where the contract itself isn't even close to worth that. Like, that doesn't feel like it can jive in like a legal setting, like with the way things work, like, fair compensation and these sorts of things. So, yeah, I also agree with you, Bio, on the other side of the equation, though, which is that because of this sort of a setup, it does feel like if you were to ask, if I said this to you, okay, tell me a player to recruit who has not been in SK or Immortals so far. Mm-hmm. Good fucking luck.
Yeah, right.
None, right? They all either didn't make it and were in the Team Ones or Luminosities of the world, or you'd have to pick someone who's just a complete unknown. And the sad thing about that is, every time I've ever talked to Brazilian people who are within their community in Brazil, they're always telling me that it's like mega active over there. They've got loads of the old pros still play. If you have like online tournaments, you have hundreds of teams. Like, there's loads of people playing. So I just don't believe the idea that there's no talent out there. Sadly, though, from seeing some of the recent problems, I could even also understand why you might take a guy from one of these teams where at least he's been in America, he's been in EPL, he's been to a few lands. Because after the KNG scenario, I would never take, if I'm an org owner, I would never risk my org's future in the short term on a guy who might have talent but has never been to the big lands and doesn't know what it means to be a pro. I'm sorry, we've gone past that. Like, people, as we described before, like 4 different orgs got utterly fucking burned by KNG's behavior. So at this point in time, sadly, he has now given a black mark to the community in Brazil. People aren't going to take a chance on a complete no-name. And so sadly, we'll never get the next fucking Coldzera, because that's how someone like Coldzera came up. He's a guy where I did an interview with Fallen recently. He even says he didn't know who Coldzera was like years before he signed him. He was literally unknown to him. So I do feel like this is a sad state of affairs for the Brazilian scene, because, I assumed this was going to be a Steel or someone at least I know,
Yeah, it could also be, like you say, the visa concerns.
If you've already got one, that puts you right in the fucking door. It's a bit like in LCS. If you can get a visa and you've played in the NALCS, well, it doesn't matter if the Korean back home's twice as good. I'll take you. I know you've got the visa.
Yeah. So I get, we'll see how that pans out. Again, I can't really speak to the efficacy of the player because he's not somebody I've watched a lot of, but certainly there's still some very big names on this NTC lineup, and I imagine when they are announced as joining SK officially, they'll definitely be a one to watch. The question now remains, of course, where these nomadic fucking Brazilians end up. The Hennies, the Lucases, the Steels. Still a lot of question marks about what they're going to do. And I think they're two good too good a player to sort of too good players to sort of stay out of teams and rosters for long. But again, it's like people are running out of options, and it's going to be tough for them to find now a solid Brazilian five that can live up to their billing as being good players and achieve what they should. So we'll wait and see how that pans out. Now, there was another thing I wanted to talk about, because obviously I said there was a Brazilian theme. Belo Horizonte, ESL, right? Another event I'm guessing you won't be attending.
I've had a lot of invitations.
Oh, yeah, I saw them. I saw them on Twitter. Please come so we can cut your throat.
Oh, I literally had... Mate, what's mad is... I'm going to have to look up some of this, because here's the thing. Whenever I report someone on Twitter, you know, they send you an email telling you what the result of the report was when they processed it. Problem is, though, like... I never go back and check those reports, because who gives a fuck, right? Like, once you report them, if they're banned, they're banned. If they're not, then they're not going to ban them, are they? But I'm going to actually go back and check some of these, because I've now seen the same names literally tweet things like, your family will die to a shooter. And then the same person's tweeting me 2 weeks later. Like, if they're not going to remove those sorts of tweets, what are they removing?
Well, I'm not going to speculate, because we'd have to timestamp it. But, yeah, I mean... I definitely saw you getting a deluge of death threats when Belo Horizonte was...
Oh, and as usual, by the way, as I've told you a million times, I don't get those comments just when I tweet about a Brazilian player. No, if I do a tweet about, like, sometimes not even CSGO, people tweet that shit to me.
Mm. Oh, yeah. It's
also,
wild.
by the way, it's literally got to be the most developmentally subnormal strategy to get someone to come to your country to kill them, to say, please come to my country and I will kill you when you get there. Right? At what point in time am I ever going to fall into your trap? Why am I ever going to go there? It's like those people in Poland, I told you, who were sending me Facebook messages. What hotel are you in? Well, if anything, I'm going to tell you the wrong one, you daft little cunt. Have you Polish people never learned a strategy or something? You never heard a strategy. You don't even know the basics of entrapment.
Oh, I'm in the Best Western. Oh, I'm giving it away, haven't I? He's going to know
now. Imagine it, though. Imagine, like, grassing yourself up. Imagine it, like yeah, so I'm in this hotel. So what? You're armed to the teeth and you want to come and kill me?
Talk about it or something like.
Yeah, I'm just down here. Come meet me. Yeah, it's insane. But I don't even think you tweeted anything on the day it was announced. I think the fact that an event was announced was enough to make the people who love you very much.
Do you want to know something sad as well, Rich? Like, I won't go into any details, but every time they've held these sorts of events in Brazil, the sad thing is, most people in the esports industry don't actually take any of that shit seriously. You know, people will ask me, would you work this event? And obviously I tell them, well, obviously not, categorically no. Why? Unless, no, in fact, there's no scenario in my life where I would go to any of these events. Why would I? Well, sadly, it wouldn't even just be because of my situation. I have to say, by the way, there's certain places at this point in life, I just don't want to go anywhere. Like, it's nothing to do with any history. Like, for example, I don't care what anyone tells me about South Africa. I will never be going to South Africa in my lifetime. And that has nothing to do with esports. Just if you look at the fucking situation out there, I don't really feel like going to that country. The number one country I will not be going to is Brazil in my motherfucking life. Or if I do, the second anyone pops in a fucking biker's helmet, I'll be under the counter like a little cunt.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like... For some reason as well, the one thing I hate about, obviously, I think we've done a great podcast. Like, we must be up to 80 episodes, right? I think By the Numbers is just straight fucking good. Fire. It just shits on everything. I've always been involved with some absolute banging podcasts down the years, and you've always done good video content. But By the Numbers is fucking awesome. But the one thing I hate about doing it is, for some reason, we are now like like Pacific Rim. I'm the left hemisphere, you're the right hemisphere. And everything you fucking do and say comes back to me. Everything I do and say comes back to you. Like the Chuckle Brothers to me.
It's ridiculous.
It's And as a result, like I've never really had beef with Brazilians at all. I've never said anything about the country. Said a few things about the players and how they've handled themselves. I think that's fair. I think that's within my remit. Certainly didn't make an unfortunate joke way back when. No, not me. But it may as well have been me, because I had the same death threats. Why don't you come to Brazil with your boyfriend so I can cut your head off? Like,
the sad thing is, I've told you this before I had ever made a joke about a Brazilian team or about any fans or talk shit to fans. I was getting the same level of response for predicting them to lose games as I now do if I make the most outrageous joke ever. And by the way, I'll just say this right now. Anyone out there who thinks that like they can continually bring up that joke as though it's something I have to answer for now, when it's literally a joke on the very day it took place, I publicly apologized for and had the apology accepted by the only people actually involved in the joke, by the way. The idea that I have to keep answering for that is like, I'm never going to do it. So I don't care if people bring that up 1,000 times. It's totally irrelevant.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, K&G, of course, the same person they love, to this day has not apologized for anything he's ever done. Now, there is one sentence in a Facebook post he did where he implied something like, maybe what I did was wrong. Doesn't even apologize. Doesn't even say what it did was wrong. He says, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But that reminds me, have his lawyers contacted you yet? Because he said in that same post he was suing.
Between him and that fucking daughter idiot, I'm still waiting for all these lawsuits to come flying in, mate.
We'll see. I think in 2018. I mean, I'm already named in one. I'm already named in a lawsuit. Okay. I'm not the defendant or anything, but I think let's see. We should have a competition so you can get sued. That'll be a good one. That can be the decider on the FaZe Virtus Pro.
Who lost the most money?
Yeah.
Good luck fucking extraditing me.
You'll be hiding. Anyway, so look, they got this event, Belo Horizonte. And they did some qualifiers for it, and Talked qualified. That's obviously the team with AZK, Swag, Steel, the famously suspended players from the majors. And they've had a bit of a strange time. I was commentating a cup that was run by like Dust2.us, the community website, and I watched them play, and they were really underwhelming, apart from Steel, who was playing really, really good. And Kooster, I suppose, as well, has been in pretty good form. He's coming back, Duncan. You can't stop it. It's happening. But they managed to qualify. They got a 3-0 win over Complexity. They only had to play 2 maps because they had the advantage. So not the best opposition. But they're going to be going and rubbing shoulders now with Liquid, Mouse Sports, SK Gaming, FaZe, Space Soldiers, Big, and then whoever's going to come through the South American qualifier. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on this. First of all, I'm actually happy to see Talked at sort of more tournaments, and this is a respectable one. This is an ESL run tournament with top teams there. It's not like a novelty value, like sort of a fun tournament in a way, like Summit or whatever. So I just wanted to get your opinions on Talked qualifying, whether or not they can do damage, whether or not they could actually surprise a few teams out here.
Like, as you say, there definitely are some very good teams here. Like, there's basically like 3 of the best teams in the world. So you start with that. Then you've got the factor of the interesting detail is, like, I'd have to look who's in the qualifier, but a bunch of those teams obviously are not the ones you'd expect to see. Big, Space Soldiers, okay, they're borderline, but even so, you'd think some other names would make it. Talked, obviously, I wouldn't expect them to make it. Then again, as you say, they play Complexity. It's not like they played some mega team. To me, this is an event where I would expect the big names to fucking dominate. With that said, though, I will give a very small chance to Talked, in as much as the amount of actual prep that they could do on some of the other teams is a lot. So that actually gives you a decent chance right there. Meanwhile, if you're the other teams, that is the team, along with the South American qualifier, you are going to put the least amount of effort into studying. And in fact, I'll go ahead and say, I think teams like FaZe will barely put any effort in. They will think to themselves, we always get out of group stages, we'll easily roll through this. So that gives you a slight window, but even then, you're going to need it to be like good map for you. Someone's going to have to go ham. Now, you've got some good players. Someone like Swag can obviously do that, but it's obviously unlikely. The problem here is there's not enough of a mid-tier for me. It's like amazing teams, and then they're not as great teams.
Well, what makes it interesting is, we've been asking a lot of questions about this NRG lineup. They've had this ridiculous map win to loss ratio online. Everybody's super excited about seeing NRG, go into a big tournament. A lot of people thought NRG were going to come through this qualifier. And when you consider, it was Talked, Rogue, Complexity, teams of that caliber that were in this qualifier, NRG was certainly my pick. I thought they were a real strong bet to come through. And it was actually Talked that beat NRG.
I've just opened the page, mate.
Oh, yeah.
On the stats, Daps has minus 34 kills.
Yeah.
You owe someone money on that team or something. What are you doing? You are aware that that's just a metaphor when they say you just have to be the brain and they'll be the. Do you have a body? Are you a disincarnate entity? That's like 45, isn't it? That's unbelievable.
Yeah. So look, that's a huge win for them. And to get all the way and then not like fall at the later hurdles, like often happens by beating, complexity and stuff. I think this is a good sign. Now, what's interesting is you talk about swag. Having watched a lot of talk lately, the people you got to watch on this team. I mean, like, I think swag actually is. I don't know what happened. I think he's like discovered girls and weed. And I think he's hit that fucking plateau where we all know that'll straight kill your ability to fucking play. Because when you're having a massive reefer and getting laid on the reg, CS just doesn't seem that important, does it really? Like, sorry guys, sorry. That's the word on the street. Anyway, I'm probably wrong characterizing him that way. Oh, disclaimer, completely made it up. Probably. Yeah, just a joke. Probably did though. Probably it's all true. And meanwhile, Kuster, there was some mad statistic like in his last however many games, I think it's on the front page of Reddit, he's like clutched out like 72% of his 1v1s. No doubt. Yeah. Still doesn't remember to buy kits, of course, but you think that life lesson would come back and haunt him. Didn't work. But obviously as well, Steel is playing fucking out of his mind right now. Okay. Like Steel is playing absolute god tier Counter-Strike, fragging in-game leader, entries, got it all. I don't know, man. Like I want to see this team go head to head with some big heavy hitters, because I don't think they'll have it all their own way. I think like crapping out on this like online cup to people they think they're better than, in the Mountain Dew League. Good kick in the nuts at the right time. And I know I'm going to be watching them with a lot of interest out there in Brazil. And Kuster's back. Definitely back.
I already knew, by the way, like, it's the way you'll have to go to like clickbait levels, where part of the clickbait is it's always like, you won't believe this. Every stat has to be like, look, I found some sort of a stat that says Kuster's like sort of good. And then it's like, you won't believe 7 reasons you won't believe Kuster should still be mentioned.
Right. I'll look, I'm going to get Sam to bring it up. I want this on the record.
Unless this guy runs up to me when I'm having a heart attack and jabs a fucking needle in my heart and restarts the shit. I don't want to know about this cunt. He's never done anything.
Mate, he's back. Listen, since joining Talked, he's got the highest rating on the team, a 1.22 kill to death ratio, or kill to death rating, 73% of his 1v1s.
Right, here's the thing that will kill your hopes in Kuster.
Yeah, he's playing against dog shit.
No. Here's what will kill your hopes. Yeah. Is it's one thing, right? There's many players out there where I don't like the way they play, or sometimes them as a person, right? And when I do interviews with the players who've played with them, what I always try to do, to be fair, is I'll ask this player who played with them, like, sort of explain the guy to me. Like, what am I not getting, Like, for example, certain players who aren't good in the game maybe do have an amazing effect on the team morale, or they do something inside the game that doesn't get you kills, but it helps another player, facilitates his greatness. Now, when I did an interview with FNS after he'd left CLG, he literally says in the interview that Kuster was one of those people who like is his own worst enemy as a player, and that Kuster himself would do stuff like say, "Oh, Ricky, I think you should op now, mate. I'm not very good with it." Even though, even Ricky would be like, "Well, you're a better op than I am." You go, "Nah, I think you should." Notice I've already made him fucking Michael Jackson, like his voice. "Nah, you're being ignorant, Mickey. You take the."
What are you doing?
No, Moses, it's ignorant. I could be next star player, Moses. Why are you being ignorant?
You're fucked. Like,
who's Bubbles in that scenario?
I don't know, man. Bubbles is fucking Moses every time, just taking one for the team. How the fuck's he doing that? The guy's been like, eventually, Moses, you've got to hop off a fucking train that's going off a cliff, mate. You can't just go off with it. Like, you can still make it. I meant to go down here. Just never give up, will he? Never fucking give up.
Oh, fuck me, dude. Right. Oh, God. How are we doing for time, Sam?
About a time to end the show, by any chance?
Yeah. Fucking as soon as Michael Jackson gets trotted out, mate, it's time, innit? Like, pull the fucking plug just like his doctor did. Anyway, let's... a bit more
allegedly.
Pretty sure that was the Illuminati for speaking out on on shit, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Right.
Or Astro, maybe he crossed Astro at some point in time.
Can I just say, like, we'll definitely just cut this bit out, right? We'll definitely cut this over now.
Come on.
But can I say, did you remember that fucking recording they played of Michael Jackson when he was on his deathbed, wrecked on them painkillers, and he was talking about opening a children's hospital? Do you remember that? And he had his
Michael Jackson's children's hospital.
But his voice was so deep.
Yeah.
Why are you talking in that high pitch?
Why are you talking about opening a? Why are you talking about opening a children's hospital?
Here we go.
I guess what, you'd have a fucking key to every room in there, wouldn't you? He is the owner. Right, cut the whole thing. Just end this fucking podcast.
No, we've got one more thing to do.
Right, okay.
We've got one more thing to do.
Get me out.
I don't know why. 5 minutes long in this movie.
That's weird. Why are the lights on? Nurse? I'm looking at the man in
Why have you done the fucking Elvis wiggle, mate? Like he's Elvis. I'm looking.
Fucking God, dude. Right. Fresh Michael Jackson material. He's only been dead for many years.
Exactly. We're never going to get another chance to use it, are we?
True. Right. Bully hunters.
I forgot all about this. Fucking hell. As if you've saved this to last.
Well, the thing is, I just got off the phone with the advertising campaign company that ran it, FCB.
And anyway, he had to go because he has to jump off a fucking 10-story building now. What's this?
Yeah.
Isn't that so mad that was an actual campaign?
So the stocks all crashed.
To shreds, you say. But what about steel? To shreds, you say. Fucking hell.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, like I had to bring it up with you because I'm going to do a video, but that's going to be more like straight reporting the facts. I've got statements from all the parties involved.
Sure.
Going to present my findings. It's going to be very serious as the whole farce can be. But we have to talk about it on this podcast. Do you want to play the fuck it? I'm going to play this footage when I record my video. But I'm just going to get it for you.
Let's watch it.
Yeah, we'll have a watch. We'll do a 3, 2, 1 on it. Let me find it for you. Bully Hunter. Hang on. It's coming. I've got it bookmarked. There it is. And the clip's still on. So we'll 3, 2, 1 this clip and make sure you play it for our loving audience, Sam. They've tried to delete and cover everything up, by the way. What you won't realise is that deleting a Twitch channel doesn't automatically delete clips, which seems fucking absurd to me. But I've got it now. It's going nowhere. So, just let me know when you're ready, guys.
Right. 3, 2, 1, go.
Lights have come down, and that is a signal for a bully hunt. Now let's see exactly how a bully hunt works. This is our casual gamer, Pinklite23, who has been harassed in-game. That's her, but let's cut to her feed.
Pinklite23, of
So we can
course.
see right now that we're
Name yourself after a fleshlight.
She's doing what she loves, playing CSGO.
She's fucking shit as well.
I know where you live.
These are real comment.
Can't handle how big her tits are.
Why does it sound like they're playing it from a VHS of an 80s movie? I'm pretty sure this guy said this to Rambo.
Behavior we're fighting against here. Now let's see how she used.
Look at that guy on the left. Look at that Asian guy. I disapprove of this.
Pinklite23 is in-game. What she's going to do is call a bully hunter with our tools. She's doing it right now. She just logged onto our site, logged in with her Steam account, and is now locating a bully hunter. Now let's see which bully hunter was called.
Right, we can kill it there. So that's the very real harassment that definitely happened. Right. So anyway, look. Just so you know, there was a few problems with this. Like, so when I was interviewing FCB Chicago, one of the things I wanted to make absolutely clear before I put my report out there is whether or not they will commit to that being faked, because it is faked. That is amazing,
what are the odds that they could get a live person to be like, we're gonna have to start over again. No one's ever said they're gonna rape and kill her.
Yeah. No, but this is the thing. So apparently in the original script there was meant to be a disclaimer. And I can't get the video now because they've deleted it. But apparently there was I see what you're doing now.
PC legit almost crashed doing that as well. So you're like,
worth crashing the stream just to get
There
that
he
Asian
is.
dude's fucking face in.
There he is.
Just find who he is and get him to let me use that.
I guarantee he's like one of those like actors that does very small parts and he's just desperate for work or something, you know.
Exactly the toxic behavior
He played disapproving father in like fucking some kids movie, no doubt. And that's his classic look.
So basically, the first thing was they said it was live, right? When they did the whole event, and oh, nice, you've got it animated. That's good. They said it was live when they did the whole event, but obviously you can see. First of all, there's no possible way that could have been live. So first of all, you've got the wrong Glock noises in the game. They're using the older Glock noise. That's why it sounds all weird and fucked up.
And they also apparently don't even know how to do basic fucking rendering of a Counter-Strike clip because it looks like it's gone through about 5 PCs before it gets to their screen.
Yeah. So there's that. And then obviously there's the fact that somebody on your opposite team can't talk to you just directly. So if they're on the opposite team...
Richard, why are you piercing the veil of disbelief here?
I know.
Normally, when I'm playing Counter-Strike, what'll happen is someone on the other team will be like, I'll rape you, bitch. I'll be like, excuse me, mate, I'm just trying to do a strat here. Well, I can hear it all, can't I? Oh, fucking hell, the whole fabric of the game's fault. Where am I? Is that you, Michael?
So I interviewed several of the people who attended, and they were all told that this was all real and not manufactured. And of course, a lot of the people in the audience have never played a game of Counter-Strike, right? So they didn't know that this was clearly... So anyway, so I interviewed them and I was like, listen, will you tell me one way or the other on record, is that footage faked? And it was like sort of like going back and forth and they were going, well, we don't know if we can answer that question. We need to check. And I was like, well, you did put a disclaimer in your original script by your own admission saying that this was like recreated footage. So if it's recreated, then by definition, it's not really happening.
Yes.
It's a recreation. Now imagine if I made a documentary and I saw something that happened, but didn't capture it. The cameras weren't there. So I got some actors to reenact it. And
Very famous on Panorama, etc.
Yes. And then I just presented that as being reality. If I didn't disclose that it was a recreation, that would be grossly unethical of me, and it definitely. And considering this is an advertising campaign, a marketing campaign, there are potentially even some legal considerations. So they wouldn't answer my question on record. They said they're going to get back to me on that one. But again, there is no doubt in my mind that is faked. The abuse doesn't even sound genuine, honestly. It would be horrifying if it was, by the way. I'm certainly not condoning saying that to anybody, male, female, whatever, right? But the reality is this looked very manufactured to create a particular reaction from the audience, from the speakers who were there, to sell this idea that every time a girl plays Counter-Strike, there are people on the opposing team threatening to rape them. There was also a mass debunking of the statistics that we used.
Oh, that was really egregious, that part.
Yeah. The statistics...
Didn't she claim something like 7 million women had not played esports? It was millions had been put off playing esports games because of this abuse or something.
Yeah, I mean, this was how it was presented. Now, listen, look, we've talked to a lot of women who play games down the years. You've even done a series of interviews about this particular topic, both recorded ones you've presented publicly and off the record ones that have never been shown to the public. So, it's not that I'm not sensitive to this. Like, I think anything that's sort of like a buddy scheme, for example, where you help introduce, women and girls to the games and put them in an environment where they feel safe and they're not going to be criticized for being bad and they get to learn. I'd all be for that. The problem that they had here was, first of all, it was completely fake, not a true representation of what happens when you go into a game, recreated from anecdotes, apparently. There was no disclaimers expressly stating that I can tell. They're checking their video footage, which, of course, they've deleted, and they're going to let me know if it was in there. And then on top of that, you've got the fact that this idea of hunting bullies was so terribly executed, and you don't stop a bully by bullying the bully. That you don't tell kids that at school. Like, you do you? You know, they always say stand up to a bully. They don't say, oh, what you do is get 10 of your mates, wait for that bully. And then when he's coming out of school, kick the ever-living shit out of him, spit on him and say, that'll teach you never to bully again, because that makes you the fucking bully.
This was literally a marketing campaign run around the ethos of fucking Freakazoid late 2015. That's what got him in trouble. And someone thought, let's just pay money to do a real campaign like this.
Yeah. So it's really strange to me. And then on top of that, as I said, the statistics were so overblown and there were so many statistical problems. There's been several debunkings of it online that it just seems to me like it was just so poorly thought out and poorly managed. Now, what I can say is I interviewed SteelSeries directly. I spoke to their head of PR, and we had very, you know me, I'm a tough inquisitor. I can start out nice and friendly and give you some layup questions, but I fucking roasted FCB today. They couldn't handle it. There was 3 of them on the fucking conference call, all blah blah blah. They just didn't know what the fuck was going on because they were being asked real questions. And the same thing happened to SteelSeries, to the point where they were like, I can't do this anymore. It's a witch hunt. I'm just trying to get to the fucking truth. Right, which would behoove you, SteelSeries, you mad fuckers. But they did tell me like a few little fibs. They were economical with that truth because they were wondering how much they need to disclose. But here's what I will say before I present the video. SteelSeries, not their idea. FCB Chicago take total ownership for the campaign. SteelSeries' involvement was their PR person was a consultant after being approached by FCB. They were not the client, and their sole financial, if you can call it that, interactivity was they gave them 20 headsets, which they knew they would brand as Bully Hunters gear to sell for a charity of FCB's choice. This whole campaign, for want of a better word, was actually a pet project of somebody who worked at FCB. It was done as a calling card, because if you look at their clientele, they have never had clients in the gaming space, and that fucking shows. They don't know anything about gaming. They went out and got what they thought were experts, weren't experts, and that's what created this whole clusterfuck. I don't think they'll be coming back to gaming anytime soon. SteelSeries even said to me they're looking at the options of maybe some form of like legal action in not so many words, because of how damaging the campaign was for them. And that's what's prompting FCB to come out and make an unequivocal statement that this was all their fault and all they're doing and all their idea. But yeah, I just thought like this whole fucking thing, it's like, listen, I know that the narrative that gamers are evil scumbags universally is very lucrative right now. The mainstream gaming media couldn't operate without that narrative being pushed as utterly true. But the reality is that the vast majority of people, yes, you will encounter some abuse and harsh language on the internet where people are cloaked in anonymity and can say whatever they want, divorced from any consequences. But honestly, why does no one ever talk about the relationships that get forged through gaming? The people you meet from different backgrounds, different fucking skill levels, different games, different economic strata, different countries. No one ever talks about how unifying gaming is and how people do come together in communities. No one ever talks about that. I don't understand why. It's, people are being bullied online. Yeah, what about the communities you're in? What about your Discords with hundreds of people on who all share common interests and talk? Why does no one ever bring that to the forefront? Oh, yeah, instead the mainstream gaming press will say, look, we found an alt-right furry Discord. The Nazis have took over Discord. We will now force Discord into releasing new terms of service that mean they can read your messages. And everyone goes, right, well, that's definitely tackling the problem. But what about all the... It's this tiny, small, toxic percentage all the time that gets pushed to the forefront as being representative of gamers as a whole. They've been doing this since the fucking late 80s. As soon as they got bored of video nasties, gamers and computer games were the next fucking thing to demonize, and it's still going on now with that fucking buffoon in the White House. Visa's gone, of course. Fucking calling in experts because he says computer games are creating killers. When's it gonna fucking end? And you shouldn't embrace anybody that endorses this completely false narrative.
No, That's my main problem with all this, Richard, is like, obviously, if you get into the whole topic, from top to bottom, it's pure bullshit. Like the idea of there's all this insane amount of harassment and abuse, and they're all facing it, and millions of women have been put off, like, not even vaguely plausible, especially when the game's Counter-Strike, like, fuck 100% of the way off. There's no way those numbers could ever make sense for a game like Counter-Strike. Then you look at the fact that, I mean, I mentioned it on some past episodes. I'm going to do a video on this topic because I've never explicitly done one. And that's one of the problems I've noticed in my own career, actually, that I run into is once you've said something enough times, you feel like it's out there, but no one's ever going to remember and go back and find the specific part in one VOD. You need to make like sort of your own separate statement so that it's got like its own lifespan. And as I said, I actually think what's mad is we spend so much time defending esports that you forget it's the other way around. It is the most egalitarian sport to ever exist. You can be any gender, race, background. You can be from any social, economic background in the world. And as long as inside that server, you are better than the other person, the game doesn't go, just going to back trace where you're from and your location. And you lose the game. No, you win the fucking game. That's it. It's over. No amount of eugenics bullshit can actually stop you in the game winning the game. It is the most egalitarian sport ever created. But what is the way it is presented? 100% 180 degrees opposite from that, as the most abusive, least equal egalitarian sport ever created, in which white men abuse everyone else. That is such a ludicrous premise. It's not even vaguely what adds up overall.
Yeah, this is what I mean. It's like I say, I get it, right? Some people will be unwelcoming of others. Some people will pick on people's differences and say mean, hurtful,
here's a great example, Richard.
Things. They will do that.
I actually saw, that Miss Harvey, the female Counter-Strike player who in 1.6 was winner of ESWC many times, she did a tweet, right, that wasn't related to esports. It just said that she'd been shown sort of like a private group chat that she wasn't in by someone who used to work with her, I think at an ex-job or something like that. And she said that this had basically, like, it was really hurtful because what she'd found was in this group chat, she was the butt of the joke and a load of people who she worked with, like, were all making like nasty comments about her and insulting her on her looks at stuff, right? You understand why the important part of the premise there is that it wasn't to do with the game. It wasn't in Counter-Strike. It wasn't in an esports game. That is what people do anyway. The real problem is, in real life, if I go and play football now, so everyone isn't going to tell me what they're thinking in their mind. Because guess what? If they're a little nerd, I might fucking punch them in the face if they say something super offensive about me. Just as an example, obviously. But the point is, in real life, we don't just say everything. Now, behind a computer screen, I've no doubt that guy would tell me all sorts of wild shit if he could. Especially if he knew it could never be traced back to him. He'd go absolutely nuts, wouldn't he? So in a random game in which you think you're never going to meet these people again, yes, you are going to get the absolute worst of people. And think about this again. I will spin it the other way for you. Think about how many times you play with a random assortment of people on your team and against you who you have never met in your life, and it isn't constant abuse. It isn't people all day long criticizing everything you do. It's the odd person, and it's occasionally. That's what a fucking amazing community online gaming is, that it's actually incredibly small amount when there's no consequences. Remember, in a random matchmaking game, they get almost like Valve never really goes through and checks all those fucking griefing reports because the guy blocked you from behind wants to get you up. They can just do that. So the fact that that doesn't happen all the time tells you that actually most people are pretty fucking reasonable, and you have to really dig into the like margins to get to the nutters. And even then, what do you know? It's faked so many times, or it's a fucking Twitter egg account that was created 2 weeks ago. And what the final thing I want to say on this is the people that piss me off at this point in time aren't the idiots from outside who don't know about gaming, who spread this stuff, right? Okay, they could only do so much. What pisses me off are the people who are in esports who kowtow to those people. The people like SteelSeries or like Blizzard, who will agree, yes, we have a diversity problem in our game. We have a lot of toxicity in our game. Riot Games. These are the people I blame because they know better, and yet they're willing to sell all their integrity to that narrative, to virtue signal and try and be like, look, I know it's bad, but I'm not the one who's doing it and I'm trying to make it better. And even worse, in doing so, sell every single one of us who play their game down the line. Like, you know what? People might think over the years I've been a bit harsh to Blizzard and a bit harsh to Riot. I've spent money on Blizzard and Riot Games and then been told for years that I'm a piece of shit and that I'm a toxic asset and that if I ever complain that someone in the game does something that I don't like because they're ruining my game, that I'm like a terrible human being and I must be reformed and re-educated on how to even socialize with other humans. I'm not having that. Like, I paid for this game. I'm your consumer. Why are you selling me out to some cunt who doesn't even follow your game? It's outrageous. So I have to say, I put a lot of the blame at the people in esports who are basically like the middlemen for this shit. Because if this was just a stupid story that had no association with SteelSeries, who gives a fuck? It's just some nobody doing a shitty campaign, isn't it? But as soon as you slap a big name on it, it does mean something to us all. So I wish that the community would think twice before thinking, no, well, of course I'm against bullying. Well, that's not what this was about, was it?
You get absurd situations like I've just linked Sam or something here, right? Imagine this, like you're Blizzard, right? You're developing Overwatch. You want it to be a big esport. You're charging people 20 mil to fucking buy in, right? Let's be real. The game is nowhere near as complex as a MOBA, like Dota, not even as complex as League. It's also got the sort of simplicity to factor in of an FPS. It's got the broadcasting problems associated with both games in terms of you can't just watch it as a casual, you've got to know a little bit more, but equally it can never have the ultra deep strategic depth of a Dota 2 or even a Counter-Strike. I sit on a Discord with all of the pros and I made this point and some got very upset about it. But I was trying to explain, they were going, what? Counter-Strike? You just move your mouse and shoot heads. And then
anyone who thinks that's an absolute cretin.
And then I started telling them about, well, you got to know the smokes and there's hundreds of smokes on each map and flashbang angles and this and that, pre-fire spots, like tactical setups, fakes, all this. For me, and maybe I am wrong, but Counter-Strike is just an infinitely deeper game in terms of high-level tactics than Overwatch. Now, Overwatch obviously has balance issues as well because different heroes, different abilities. As I said, you've got the problems of a MOBA that you need to factor in there. Well, Jeff Kaplan came out and said their quest to fix toxicity in-game is slowing down the updates of the game. That's on record. And it's like, and Sam can bring it up so people can see. Now, when you're a games developer, if you are unironically saying to your core audience, sorry, the game is ass, we're dealing with something that is so tangential and peripheral to the gaming experience, but we're putting so many resources into that, you're still going to deal with fucking a bad playing experience. You're all out of fucking whack. You've lost your minds. This is the same guy, by the way, who came out and said, we're now devoting time to proactively looking at YouTube channels, Reddit comments, and trying to find users who make negative comments about Overwatch content and Overwatch games and ban them in-game. Tyler One logged on, whatever you think of him, the other day and was like, I've been silenced for 10 years or something mental. It's like...
On League of Legends?
No, Overwatch.
So because obviously he's a big streamer, they've heard about him, they've had a look, and they've seen, oh, that's his account, is he? And then they just silenced him for 10 years. Apparently, again, by the way, paying customer of their fucking product.
Right?
So it's more important to Blizzard and Riot, by the way, but I think ban them in. They've done enough over the years to deserve it. It's more important to them that a 45-year-old guy reading a newspaper doesn't think that Overwatch is filled with Nazis than it is for someone who actually loves Overwatch or League of Legends, has bought it, maybe spent hundreds on extra stuff, than for that guy to have just an all right playing experience. Instead, we have to diminish that guy's playing experience.
Here's the clip again, Sam. You can just run it while I talk over it if you want. But you'll see Tyler One shows Greek gods. The most ironically named streamer of all time. That basically just they'd unmuted a bunch of accounts and then he went to log into his account and he'd just been silenced. And it's like, listen, I understand why you think you need to do all this because there are a bunch of crybabies that will never accept muting people is enough. If you don't want to hear the bad things, you can mute them. That's
You know what they always say, though, Rich? This is one of the things that triggers me the most. As soon as you say, why don't you mute them?
Why should I have to?
Exactly. They use the same logic. In the same scenario, whenever it's a case like you're talking about, where it's just someone on comms and you have a mute option, as far as I'm concerned, every second after they make that first comment that you do not mute them, you actively invite those comments.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that.
Mute them instantly. Now, don't get me wrong. I know your experience will be worse because you know what? It's a team game. Maybe you need that guy to come for you. But I can tell you, as someone with experience, not in your particular example, but for example, when I play on Face It, okay, every now and then you get that guy who's way too critical. You know, you're just playing. Everyone's doing okay. No one's really bad at the game. You know, it's not like there's anyone actively griefing, but you just don't like run in quite fast enough, or you go first and you die, and you thought he was going to follow you up, but he doesn't. And he's way too critical. He's like, why are you running first? I will tell you next. And eventually, I just mute those people without even telling them, Rich, because what I realize is I do a quick plus minus and I go, right, the calls this guy's going to give me versus how much it's going to irritate me and ruin my experience, right? It's tipped over. The equation tells me mute him. And you know what? I never look back. In the rest of the game, I don't get any comms. I play as if he can't comm. Problem solved. It's really not that big a deal, especially if it's really affecting you. Like if it's actually that level of what we saw in that clip, I would mute that guy instantly. I'm not going to listen to a guy tell me more about how he's going to rape me.
In
a universe in which anyone could communicate with the other team via team comms.
Yeah. So it's like I say, you know, I think the issue is like, you know, as you astutely point out, we've really overblown the toxicity problem. And there's a lot of people who like, I understand the argument. Yes.
No, but here's the thing, Rich. Think about this. Like I said, you can't blame the guy who's naive and is getting lied to by the media. But let's say he Googles it. Overwatch, toxicity. What are all the first articles coming up? Blizzard themselves saying it's a massive problem. In fact, they're saying here, as you've just pointed out, it's a bigger problem than updating the motherfucking game that millions of people play.
Yeah, I know it's wild, and I've said it a bunch that for me the level of investment into curing the toxicity problem is this: you have to accept that having a bad online gaming experience is going to happen from time to time. Does it suck? Yes. Can you put things in the game? Like, for example, Dota 2 has an amazing system where for starters, Dota 2 have only just introduced actual bans. Right. But if you get reported a lot, you go into something called low priority. Low priority, you are playing with all the other cunts just like you. And you must win your game. You must come together and find common ground and not troll and not feed and not have a shitty internet
connection. It's the Suicide Squad approach.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Suicide Squad. They call it in League of Legends Prisoner's Island. Light used to say, Prisoner's Islands don't work. Trust me. 3 games in fucking low prio in Dota 2, and you will never, for the next 100 games, you will not be a cunt. You have to have something wrong with you to want to enjoy that experience and go back to it. It is horrendous. Now, they've only just brought in this thing where if you are mega toxic and go into like the 0.05% of all reported people, you will do a 6-month ban. I don't like that. I don't think banning people for shit behavior for a game that they've pumped money into is the right way. I hate the way that developers now don't sell you a game, they lease you a game and then police your behavior to say whether or not you can play it. So what you have to understand is that you are going to have negative experiences from time to time. What makes you so fucking important? What makes you so important that a developer must pump millions and hundreds of thousands of man hours into fixing a problem that affects your feelings when you can just mute and suck it the fuck up? That to me seems like a better productive use of time. Now, I'm not talking about unreal levels of harassment that I myself have experienced where people try and dox you, hack your emails, find out who you are, where you live, threaten to kill you. I'm not they do it off platform outside of the game after you've muted them when they're trying to run you down and you can't get away from them. Anybody that is doing stuff like that, throw the full fucking weight of the law at them. I'll not lose any fucking sleep. If you're that much of a cunt, get fucking memed on, have the police come to you, explain to the FBI why you're threatening to shoot me when I'm working an esports event. See how you like that. You know, that's how it is, right? But at the end of the day, in-game, fuck you. Like, I'll just mute you and that's it. And I'll suck it up and I'll do what I've got to do. You know, it's like they've already put a report system in. What more do you want?
That's actually the thing that triggers me the most. And unfortunately, it made me, especially in League of Legends, it made me realize a long time ago that this isn't even a good faith argument. This isn't about toxicity, because you know what the most toxic thing you can do inside a game like League of Legends or Counter-Strike is? It's called griefing. In League of Legends, you can intentionally feed. You can purposely find the enemy as a jungler and feed a kill to him over and over again so that now I can't win top lane because the other guy's got 8 kills and all the gold. Right? That is about the worst thing you can do. In Counter-Strike, you can block someone. You can stand behind them so they can't retreat when they think they can. You can purposely flash them. You can make a sound behind them when they're walking. These are the worst things you can do. Those aren't even the things people get mad at, Rich. People get mad at someone just typing things that is talking shit to them. Now, I don't know about you, but I've also found in life that when you play these games, say someone just is basically rude to you. They say, you're fucking shit at the game. Like, if you keep doing that, I'll quit the game or whatever. As long as you don't do something in the game to them, if you just either A, talk shit to them back, or B, mute them, they still tend to play the game properly. They might say, if they're the jungler in League of Legends, I'll never come to your lane again. You know what they do? Because guess what? If there's an easy kill right under your tower, they want the fucking gold and to win the game. Ultimately, they want to play the game. So as long as they are not griefers, it's actually a total non-issue. Yet this is blown up as the biggest issue, while actual things like griefing are never even brought up. Like, people don't even mind that. And by the way, to tie on the thing you said about how entitled people are to their personal experience, think about how many times, I'm telling you, in games like Face It, I get like people who are just mad arseholes to me, people who do stuff like block all the time, right? I could literally go and message people who work for Face It and be like, this guy's been doing this, can you please look into this? Never done that once in my life, of course. Oh. Easy answer, not a fucking loser. When the game ends, I go, that was annoying. Well, guess I'll just continue on with my life that I only get to live for an X amount of years before being killed by someone from Brazil.
No, but I mean, again, right? Think about.
At least I've made this episode a cult classic. If I indeed do.
Yeah, no. That will be straight fire if it happens now, right? But look, so just a few final points, and we'll wrap up the show. So first of all, personal experience. If everyone's personal experience matters, and you're having a shit game, you're ruining my personal experience. Am I not allowed to tell you how I feel about you playing utterly dog shit and doing stupid things and costing me the game? Apparently not. Apparently that personal experience, that isn't sacrosanct, but the feelings of being insulted, that is. So you have to consider the biggest problem pro gaming ever had, and I've been there since it started, since online gaming started, was you have two people with very different philosophies. You have the one person who, it's only fun if I win. Winning at all costs is all that matters to me. I want to be the best. I want to win as often as I can by any means necessary. I am competitive. That is my prime motivator. When that person meets, it's just fun, innit? I'm just trying to have fun. It's a game. You're supposed to have fun.
You've triggered me again, Richard, because here's the other thing. Like, I'll give you the best example ever is League of Legends. And the reason why I get so tilted by the concept of toxicity in League of Legends is you know what? Sometimes I'll play games and I might play with a friend of mine or something. And you know what? In that game, especially if they're worse than me, I'm not trying to win, am I? Like, it's not the end of the world if we lose. I'm trying to have fun with that guy. We'll try, great, obviously tie that into some KNG shit or whatever. Anyway, so I'm trying to have fun, Anna, just have a good time. The main aim is just have fun. Girls just want to have fun. So anyway, the point is this. In a game like League of Legends, you know they had that solved from day one, right? They made ranked. That's for people who want to get their rank up and get to the top. And they made casual. No. Instead, what happened is all the people who just want to play for fun play ranked because they still want to get a rank, don't they? Yeah. And then the people who get mad at them, like, you're fucking up the game, like you bought the wrong. Like, for example, I've seen people just literally like buy stupid items, like, yeah, but I'm just trying stuff out in the meta. Great, so I'm your support, and you've just bought an item that does no damage. Brilliant. You shouldn't be in ranked.
Fuck your thumbnail, Ash, you daft cunt. Get to casual.
Those people should just be in the casual mode. In fact, that's why I actually think every game should have that. They should have a mode. Because, by the way, you know when you do go into... It's called normals, I believe, in theirs. You know when you go into normals in League of Legends, and you do get the guy who still treats it like a ranked match. Like, you bloody hell, what you doing? I always just say, mate, it's fucking normals. Go into ranked if you want that.
Yeah, exactly. It cuts both ways, and this is what I mean. You will never reconcile that difference of opinion. It is literally, you can't fucking do it. You cannot bridge the gap between two differing philosophies like that. One, I must win, and I want everybody to be trying their hardest at all times so I win, because that is what I am doing. That is what I am bringing to the game. The other person just want to fuck about, don't I? Just want to have fun. If I come into the fun fuck about arena, and then say to them what you're fucking around for, I expect to get shit. And then if you're coming into ranked and going, hey, I just want to try this wacky build, I'm going to call you out for being a cunt, and I think that's perfectly reasonable. But this is the difference that nobody has ever said. Actually, what we need to do is have a better delineation between competitive and casual players. Overwatch has its own pros saying ranked ladder is garbage. It teaches me nothing about the game, and almost all the negative PR and people getting banned for saying ridiculous things comes out of having to endure that bullshit because Blizzard shut down ranked pickup games like Rank S and FPL. They will not allow it because in their contract, if more than 2 Overwatch players play together at the same time, it counts as a competing team and is therefore competing in the Overwatch League.
Unfortunately, what you've just done there, though, is open up the can of worms, which no one in esports wants to talk about, which is that esports is not a competitive discipline about the games being tournaments and let's watch the best players. It's all a massive marketing ploy by games developers to have as many casual people play their game and buy their game as possible. So even the Overwatch League, which should be an entirely separate entity from Overwatch the game, shouldn't even be based in any way, aside from the fact they use the game. Like, for example, they should never do any data to do with Overwatch League, the game, and apply it to Overwatch League. Should have no application. But they do. So as a result, the reason why Overwatch League players can't play a pickup is because they want the Overwatch League player to be forced to play with any fucking pleb who's at their matchmaking level, who can get ranked with them. So that as a result, you might keep playing Overwatch on the off chance that you can play against top players. They basically are using you for free, because you're not getting paid for that part of your contract, as a fucking marketing adjunct. And in League of Legends, same thing. So I've made these points to developers in earnest sometimes, thinking that they actually want to fix the problem. I've told them, I gave someone in League of Legends the best example ever, I think. I told them, what you do is this: when you've got all these aspects about the pro game that don't work on a lower level. So for example, there are certain champions, people like, off the top of my head, Yasuo, Zed. These sorts of champions can only be overpowered at the pro level or impossible to use. And the problem with that is, if you make them impossible to use, now shitters can use them and it's fine. If you make them overpowered, now shitters are too good with them. Like, the problem with certain champions is like that, right? So I told them, what you do is this: the tiers in your game aren't just ranking tiers. Each tier opens up a new aspect of the game. So the bottom tier is baby's first MOBA game, and that's very, very simple, with all the shit champs and no special abilities, no like extra actives. Next tier up, like, it's basically what they tried to do with the level system, but they just go from nothing to 0 to 60. And I said the whole point is, people wouldn't say, well, I'm only in bronze, so I can't watch pro level. They'd go, holy fuck, look what the pros can do that I can't do. This is amazing. I would like to play their mode. And either you make it so they have to rank up to be good enough, or you have casuals be the casual one and pro be the ranked one. Whichever way you do it, you'd solve the problem. But no one will ever do it, I can tell you for a fact, because of that reason, that it's all a massive fucking circus tent to get every pleb to believe they can come in off the street and play the same game that Faker plays, and you will treat Faker the same way you treat that first time player.
Yeah, of course they do. They balance the game based around the fucking public. Madness. Yeah, and the pros quickly disseminate what's optimal. You only have to look at League of Legends, like how many fucking champs get used in an average tournament, and it's like, it's a fraction of it. Well, why? Because some are literally just better than others because of how you've had to balance it, because you've got a bunch of casual cunts who can't use certain heroes, or they complain that they're too overpowered. So just one other thing, age, definitely something that never gets talked about in this. They do put age limits on this game. On all of these games. Now, if you are beyond a certain age, I expect you to be able to marshal your feelings to a certain degree. I could when I was a teenager. I very often got told things I didn't like to hear when I was 14 from authority figures, from people in my class, from teachers, parents, employers. I sucked it up and just got on with my life. I didn't ever think to go crying to anybody to demand a system is put in place to change the entire fabric of how society works to protect my feelings. And you will notice in the terms of service of most games, it says, first of all, you agree to that you must be of this certain age, which we know gets broke all the fucking time, because I've heard all the 9-year-old fucking squeakers that play Overwatch and fuck knows what else, right? And on top of that,
which, it also... By the way, that alone would be grounds for criticising someone. If I'm playing the game, right? If I'm playing a game and I'm losing the game and one person is just feeding over and over again, and then he talks on his mic and I find out he's 14 years old, guess what? I paid money for this game. This is my actual free time off work I'm using for this. And I have to now have my experience ruined, and then that kid can report me and I'm the one that gets punished. Fuck that.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it, right? But then on top of that, it also says in almost any terms of service that has an online multiplayer feature, the ranking, the rating and ranking does not apply to your online experience. It's there. It's there in almost every terms of service in game. So why, for some reason, developers, given that caveat, feel the need to completely change everything about their company to basically dictate to pander to the people who want to have a good online experience, when the game expressly says nothing we've said or done can prepare you for online play, is absurd to me. And then the final thing, just a piece of advice to anybody. It's the best piece of advice I will ever give you about online games. And if everybody listened to this, there would be no toxicity. So the first thing, it's not all about you. Right? Yes, you experience the game much like your life subjectively, but very often there are 4 other people on your team, maybe 5, maybe more. There are other people on the opposing team. If you are having a bad game, you need to learn to be carried. People don't want to win. They want to be the carry. You will not always be the hero in each individual chapter of the story of your online gaming. If you're having a bad game and you're complaining, but everyone else is actually carrying you and you're winning, learn to love that feeling. Learn to love winning when you played bad, and you'll have a much better time. And the other thing, if someone on your team calls you out and says, you're playing dog shit, mate, don't turtle up and go defensive. Maybe you are playing shit. Do you know what the best thing to do is? And this has bailed me out a ton of times of having that spiral where the game goes out of control and you end up losing, or people team kill you, or people rage quit. I say, yeah, I'm sorry, mate. This is my first game today. I'm not warmed up. I am playing shit. Will you please carry me? I'm sorry. Like, yeah, I'll try and step it up. Diffuse. I have never seen a situation where someone has then come back going, yeah, that's right, you are fucking shit. It diffuses them immediately. You take ownership for playing poorly, and then people go, all right, well, okay, this guy agrees with me that he is playing bad and he's going to try. It generally de-escalates the situation. If people could just put their little fragile fucking egos away for 2 minutes so you can all come together and have a shared team-building experience where you are not the hero, where you might be the worst player but still win, everyone's going to have a much better time. All of this stuff is just pandering to people that cannot accept maybe they're not the best player on the server and their experience isn't the most important thing that comes out of that game. That's my opinion. Anyway, we can wrap up the podcast there unless you have anything else to add. You're good?
I think that's it.
Yep, good. We'll cut out the hour of this. So if you're watching this on YouTube,
short one.
Yeah, short one today, wasn't it, Duncan? Bloody hell. Right, anyway, let's thank the patrons that make this Straight Fire podcast possible. And thanks very much to all of you. First, our $100 patrons, Detlef Insomniac, Chris N. Wynn, Hyolu Ruxon, and Jerky's Minion. Our $50 patrons, the Archangel Varao, Carter Daniel Plamanov, Daniel Plamanov-Yordanov, Vexi, Nostradamus, Andreas Nazor Westerland, Marcus Kyunpar, Madsen, Mama Jamma Hennessy, Keith Miller, Benakagi Assassin, and William Southern. That was by the numbers. We'll hopefully see you at the same time next week, or no, actually on Tuesday next week. But if not, we'll keep you informed. Follow our Twitters. And until we see you, take care of yourselves.